So, why didn't I get a Tesla? So I own a 2022 Chevrolet Bolt EV, and I've been making quite a few videos about it recently, and comments on my more recent videos ask why I didn't get a Tesla, especially since Tesla just dropped their prices and it's 2023, so there's a new tax credit for EVs, and so the Tesla's not that much more. So I figured I'd decide to make a video why I have a Bolt instead of a Tesla Model 3. First thing I got to do is acknowledge what Tesla's good at. Tesla has an amazingly reliable supercharger network that is far better than the CCS network on any charging network that my car can plug into. I was able to take a road trip to Denver, Colorado in a Tesla Model 3 and got to experience it firsthand. And the entire trip, I only experienced one Tesla supercharger that was broken, but there were 7 others at that stop that we were able to use. And of course, we just grabbed one of the other ones, plugged in, the car charged up. No need to get into an app or anything. The charger recognized the car, and the charging speeds were great. Tesla also has a much better integrated navigation system that can tell you the chargers along your route, just plugging it into the screen. Tesla also has a better native app that can give you real-time information that Chevrolet can't do with the My Chevrolet app. The My Chevrolet app takes forever to update, it seems. And so monitoring my charge session on that's not super great. But I have a Bolt, and there are reasons that I have a Bolt. So let's look into what those reasons are. I've got my notes out here so I can follow along and do this in a few less takes. The first reason that I have a Bolt as opposed to a Tesla is, of course, going to be cost. There are arguments now that Tesla just lowered the price on the Model 3. I've got the Tesla Model 3 starting right now. If you just got a white one with the stock wheels at $43,990. But this car is a 1LT Chevrolet Bolt EV. It is spec'd out with the driver confidence package and the comfort and convenience package. The comfort and convenience package was the one that I wanted because that had the heated seats and the heated leather wrapped steering wheel. And to get that on a 2022 model, I had to have the driver confidence package also. And a brand new 2023 model of this Bolt spec'd out exactly this way is $28,985. That's a difference of $14,000. That is not almost the same price. And people will argue that this new EV tax credit that's around in 2023 will bring the Tesla down to pretty close to that price. Well, that same tax credit right now would also do the same thing to the Bolt. It would bring it down another as much as $7,500 if you had enough tax liability to cover that. The other argument is going to be, well, the Tesla is going to have more equipment on it at that price. It's going to have adaptive cruise control, which would be nice. This car doesn't have adaptive cruise control. The Tesla has a frunk. I don't have a frunk. I open my hood, I've got an electric motor down there. But those arguments on price right now are if I bought the car right now in mid to late January of 2023. I bought this car in the middle of August in 2022. The tax credits didn't figure into it, and at the time, the Model 3 was $48,050. That's almost $20,000 more than what a 2023 Bolt is, and this car was about $1,000 cheaper than that 2023 specs out. So now we're talking a $21,000 price difference. So price was a big decision maker. Reason number 2 was availability. In summer of 2022, if I was on the Tesla website, I was looking, and a Model 3, especially a standard range Model 3, rear wheel drive only, single motor, was going to take 3 to 6 months from when you ordered it to be delivered. I was able to go down to my local Chevrolet dealership here in Burleson, Texas, find this car on the lot. It had arrived off of the truck the day before, test drive it with 9 miles on it, and the next day I owned it. So this car was available. The Tesla wasn't. So that would be reason number 2. Reason number 3, yes, the Tesla had more equipment, but a lot of the more equipment that the Tesla had was equipment I either didn't need or didn't like. Yeah, it would be nice to have a huge panoramic sunroof. And yes, with the roof all glass, I thought I'd get a lot of glare. And in the Model 3, I did not. They did a very good job with that, but I don't need that. The adaptive cruise control would be nice, but on that particular road trip that I was on in that car, more than half of the road trip was on US highways going through small towns in North Texas up into the Panhandle and then crossing from there through New Mexico into Colorado. Every time you went through a small town, there'd be flashing yellow lights. The car would be on autopilot with the adaptive cruise control turned on. It would see those flashing lights and think they were red lights, and the car would brake hard, or the regenerative braking would kick on hard. I've come to find out that that's called phantom braking. I didn't like the phantom braking. I didn't too much care for the cruise control. It still required input from me into the steering wheel, and this car, you know, requires 100% input from me from the steering wheel, but it's so easy to drive, it doesn't bother me on long trips. I also thought that the one pedal drive setting on the Tesla Model 3 that I was in was a little too sudden, a little too jerky for me. Now, that was in the settings that the owner had it in, and those settings could be adjusted and it would be better, but to get into them, I'd have to navigate the screen. For one pedal drive in this car, all I have to do is push that button right there and my one pedal drive is turned on. When I was first considering a long-range EV, we went to a Tesla showroom in Fort Worth, and I was able to try sitting down in a Model 3 and in a Model Y. And I will freely admit the Model Y was easier to get into than the Model 3 was for me. Now, I'm over 50 years old. I'm over 6 foot tall, and I'm over 250 pounds. My knees don't like bending to get in. Took that Model 3 on a road trip, and the fact of the matter is, this Bolt is a lot easier for me to get in and to get out. The Model Y would have been easier for me to get into and out of than a Model 3. It would have been comparable to the Bolt, but that Model Y was up around $58,000 around when I purchased this car. Now, after the price drop, it's still $52,900, which is considerably more than this. Now, that is an all-wheel drive car with a lot more acceleration and a lot more equipment, but I'm fine with this. The other thing is the build quality. Tesla had a reputation for build quality issues, and the particular one that I was in was a 2019 Model 3 with over 120,000 miles. There was stuff falling off of it. Now, granted, that's a long mileage car, but that was the type of Tesla Model 3 that was comparable in price to this when I purchased it. For the $28,000 to $30,000, I would have to have a Model 3 that was 2 or 3 years old with over 120,000 miles on it. To get it under 30, it would have had to have had a salvage title. That was the only way that it could compare price-wise. But one argument I cannot compete with is the Tesla Supercharger network is way better. We still can come back to that. For instance, the trip that I took with that Tesla in Denver, I could not follow that route with this Bolt. There's not enough CCS charging. There's none on Highway 287 between Fort Worth and Amarillo, and that's way too many miles for this car to pull off in one charge. When Rachel and I took our road trip to Tennessee back in September, we originally planned on taking Interstates 30 and 40 on the way there and taking Interstate 20 on the way back and just kind of go through a loop. But between Birmingham, Alabama and Dallas, Texas, there were no CCS fast charging stations at that time. So the routes open up a lot more. But the fact of the matter is, in calendar years of 2021 and 2022, Rachel and I went on a grand total of 6 road trips that added up to 11 days on the road. All but one of them were done in an internal combustion engine vehicle. So if we take it up to an even dozen days on the road over the last 2 years, so that it works out to 6 days driving on road trips over the course of a year, that's less than 2% of the time that I'm driving this car. The other 98% of the time I'm charging at home. And while I'm sleeping, it doesn't matter if this is a Tesla Model 3, a Hyundai Ioniq 5, a Porsche Taycan, or a Chevy Bolt, it's going to be charged in the morning when I wake up. It's that 2% of the time. 2% of my time during the year, just wasn't worth an extra 14 to 20 grand more money. It's January, our last road trip was in September, and our next road trip coming up is in March. That's a little sneak preview. In a couple of months, we're gonna have a inside of Texas road trip with the Bolt. So they're spread out so far that if that's some extra minutes or even a couple of extra hours each day where we're not driving down the road to rest works out well for us, and we don't feel like it's a waste of our time. It allows us to road trip the way that we do. That plus the car is comfortable. We like the way it looks. Rachel really likes sitting in it as a passenger. So that is why I have a Chevy Bolt instead of a Tesla Model 3. Are my arguments going to make sense to you? They don't have to, because you're a different person than me. You may have different needs. You may have different wants. A Bolt might not work for you, and a Tesla might be a better choice. Or you might just be better off with an internal combustion engine car. But at least this video, you can understand what my thinking was. Thanks for watching. We'll have some more EV content coming up.